I'm going to be doing a video on the importance of waiting on the Lord. Waiting for the Lord and doing His will while we wait. Isaiah 64 verse 4 says, "Since ancient times no one has heard, no ear has perceived, no eye has seen any God besides you who acts on behalf of those who wait for Him." Then I'll start with, I'll go on to verse 5 here real quickly. "You come to the help of those who gladly do right, who remember your ways. But when we continue to sin against them, you were angry. How can we be saved?" So, obviously we see here in Isaiah 64:4, we have a promise that's from God that He acts on behalf of those who wait for Him. And obviously there are some pre-qualifiers to that. I want to take a look here at the story of Asa earlier on in the book of 2 Kings, or 2 Kings I believe it is. Let's take a look. Let's go back here, or 2 Chronicles. I stand corrected. My mistake. We're going to go to 2 Chronicles 15, or 16, I believe it is. Okay, let's find it real briefly. 2 Chronicles, I'm turning there now. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, let's see. Okay. So, here we got the story of Asa in his last years. In the 16th, we're reading from 2 Chronicles 16. "In the 36th year of Asa's reign, Baasha, king of Israel, went up against Judah and fortified Ramah to prevent anyone from leaving and entering the territory of Asa, king of Judah. Asa took the silver and gold out from the treasury of the Lord's temple and of his own palace and sent it to Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, who was ruling in Damascus. 'Let there be a treaty between me and you,' he said, 'as there was between my father and your father. See, I am sending you silver and gold. Now break your treaty with Baasha, king of Israel, so he will withdraw from me.' Ben-Hadad agreed with King Asa and sent the commander of his forces against the towns of Israel. They captured Ijon, Dan, Abel, and Maim, and all the store cities of Naphtali. When Baasha heard this, he stopped building Ramah and abandoned his work. King Asa brought all of the men of Judah, and they carried away from Ramah the stones and timber Baasha had been using. With them he built up Geba in Mizpah. At that time Hananiah the seer came to Asa, king of Judah, and said to him, 'Because you have relied on the king of Aram and not on the Lord your God, the army of the king of Aram has escaped from your hand. Were not the Cushites, the Libyans, a mighty army with great numbers of chariots and horsemen? Yet when you relied on the Lord, he delivered them into your hands. For the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to him. You have done a foolish thing, and from now you will be at war.'" So let's talk about what's going on. Let's talk about the history behind this. Let's also talk about the events surrounding this story. Well, basically, there was a war between the king of Israel. There was basically friction between the king of Israel in the north, Baasha, and Asa, king of Judah, in the south. So they were kind of butting heads a lot. And so, after a while, Asa got kind of tired of dealing with Baasha for that amount of time that he did, because, Baasha was obviously a thorn in his side. And so what Baasha had done was he had made an alliance with the king of Aram, and he was actually allied with the king of Aram. So what does Asa do? He sends gold and silver from the treasury in the temple of the Lord to the king of Damascus in the land of Aram. So the Lord wasn't too pleased with that. Basically, Asa took matters into his own hands and said, hey, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to devise this perfect strategy. It will interfere with Baasha giving me problems anymore. I'm going to send this gold and silver to his ally and have him break his treaty with Baasha. And obviously, the Lord wasn't pleased with that, and it caused continual friction down the road between him and Baasha. So, oftentimes, when we're in a situation and we're dealing with, let's say it's a difficult situation, we don't know what to do, or it's maybe a difficult person, for example. Proverbs 20 verse 22 says, let's find it here. 22 says, do not say, I will pay you back for this wrong. Wait for the Lord and he will avenge you. So basically what Asa does is he tries to maneuver around. He's like, I'm going to send some gold and silver. I'm going to bribe the king of Aram to break his treaty with Baasha. And the plan seemed to work brilliantly at first. What the king of Aram did was he invaded Baasha's land and with his army and started attacking those cities. But, we see it backfired later on. There was continual war between Baasha and Asa. And so the whole point is, first off, before we take any course of action, maybe we're in a situation that we're not particularly fond of. We know that it's first wise to seek the counsel of the Lord and figure out, Lord, what do you want me to do in this situation? How do you want me to handle this? Jesus taught us about, repaying good for evil. We see that throughout Scripture. We see, and had he trusted in the Lord might have brought another victory like he did earlier on. Because earlier on, when Asa was younger, a whole huge army of millions of Cushites marched out to attack Asa and his men. Well, Asa responds correctly in that first situation. He prays to the Lord and seeks the Lord's help, and he's like, Lord, there is no one like you who can give strength to the powerless against the mighty. Our eyes are on you. And that army of Cushites was routed and defeated before Asa. Now, what was the difference? Asa was obviously facing a larger threat back there earlier on in his lifetime, and the Lord had delivered him out of that because he sought the Lord and trusted the Lord. Yet, when he's dealing with his difficult little Baasha over here, he decides to take matters into his own hands, and that ends up going terribly wrong. And the whole message I'm trying to get across tonight is, trust God with those difficult people in your life or that difficult situation. Seek his guidance first. Before we try to do anything, we should first seek to see what the Lord would have us do. And that's why we gotta, as James 1:5 says, if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. And if we're truly searching to find out what the Lord's will is, he will show us. He will make it clear to us what we should do. And we should follow his instructions and not get ahead of ourselves and try to take matters into our own hands. God bless.